We are going to continue in chapter 19 from Mystery Babylon the Great. I.A. Sadler. The European Union. Rome's influence in the post-war Europe. In the previous chapter, we looked at the origins of the ecumenical and New Age movements and their links with Illuminized Freemasonry and the Church of Rome. We will now turn to consider events in Europe in the aftermath of the defeat of Hitler. Most would think the following 1945 fascism was eradicated from mainstream European politics, apart from the fascist regimes in Spain and Portugal that survived until the 1970s. To the outward appearance, this is true, but in reality, it is not. We saw in chapter 17 the influence of Rome behind fascism and how Rome cleverly shifted its policies as Hitler's defeat approached. This allowed the Vatican to reestablish with public respectability new Romanist political parties under the general name of Christian Democrats, despite the outward appearance of the support for democracy. Rome never renounced the terrible statements against religious and political freedoms in the syllabus of errors proclaimed by Pius IX in 1864. Likewise, the Church of Rome continued to benefit from the cordats signed with the various fascist regimes. For these concords, the Rome's dominance remained in force after the war. Following the war, new Romanist political leaders came forward that had not been associated with the horrific deeds of fascism or Nazism. The foremost was the first West German Chancellor, Konrad Adenauer. Yet, for all this, Adenauer served as a privy chamberlain to the Pope, alongside the Nazi war criminal von Papen. At the same time, post-war France was led by the devout Romanist Robert Schuman. On 9 May 1950, Schuman and Adenauer signed an agreement to establish the European Coal and Steel Community, which was the first step in linking the economies of West Germany and France. This was the first concrete step in the process of creating a new Europe. Symbolizing this, the European Union celebrates Europe Day on 9 May. Adenauer and Schuman were to play a key role in the creation of the European Union. A measure of their favor with the Vatican is that 50 years later, they are being put forward as candidates for eventual canonization, i.e., being made into a saint. A year earlier, in 1949, the Council of Europe was formed by 10 European nations, including Britain. Its stated aim was to promote cooperation between European nations to achieve a closer union and to promote their common heritage. The Council of Europe now includes almost all European countries, including those of Eastern Europe. Even as long ago as 1952, it was calling on member governments to create a European superstate. It is evident that the Council of Europe has acted as the propagandist arm of the European Union, with which it is closely linked. It is not unreasonable to assume that the Council of Europe has been a means to pull nations together in preparation for full-blown membership of the European Union. European propaganda would try to convince people that the coming together of the European nations is a new beginning, a necessary measure to bring reconciliation to a Europe torn by war. However, the concept of the European Union is far from new. It is founded under the Holy Roman Empire. As Hitler's Third Reich failed, a new Reich was conceived. Globalist and the Bilderberg Group. Leading figures in France, Germany, and other European states were not alone in their plans for a united Europe after the war. Crucial backing for this came from the USA. The American proponents of a united Europe include names that we have met before, such as the Romanist head of the CIA, Alan Dulles, and his brother John Dulles, U.S. Secretary of State. Atkins and Jenkins also named leading American industrial and financial figures in the movement for creating a European superstate. However, these are exactly the same as those identified by Ka and Still as the central powers in the Illuminized Freemasonry that were pushing for the creation of the occult New World Order. The key organization committed to the implementation of the New Europe is the secretive Bilderberg Group. It was instrumental in bringing about the Treaty of Rome in 1957, which led to the creation of the European Economic Community, the EEC, later to be known as the European Union. The attendance list of past and recent Bilderberg meetings is breathtaking and shocking. The names of the Illuminized Freemasonry appear alongside with the highly placed politicians, trade unionists, and the industrialists from Britain, Europe, and the USA. The Bilderberg Group was officially formed in the Netherlands in 1954 by Prince Bernhard of the Dutch royal family. However, a central figure behind the scenes was the Polish born Joseph Rettlinger, who had long been involved in the intrigues to create a united Europe. Atkins and Nick Werter provide a telling description of Rettlinger. At various times, he was rumored to have been an agent of the bodies as various as the Socialist International, the Freemasons, the Vatican, and the government of Mexico. Rettlinger was a compulsive intriguer and a behind the scenes political wheeler dealer. In a later pamphlet, Atkinson states that Rettlinger was a Jesuit. From what we have seen in previous chapters, it is no surprise that Rettlinger, I think I'm putting an R in there when I'm not, an L. I think it's Rettinger. It's Rettinger, so forgive me, but I believe it's Rettinger. Should have been involved in such organizations, as each have a common basis in the Babylonian mysteries and the occult. In his exposure of Illuminized Freemasonry and the New Age movement, Ka explains that the Bilderberg Group is a branch of Illuminized Freemasonry and sister organizations of the Council of Foreign Relations, CFR. The Bilderberg Group has the task of implementing the New World Order in Europe as part of the creation of a one world government. Above the Bilderberg Group is a more select and powerful group formed in 1968 called the Club of Rome. According to Ka, the Club of Rome has been charged with the task of overseeing the regionalization and unification of the entire world. It involves key figures behind the occult and New Age movement. The Club of Rome has divided the world into 10 regions, of which Europe is one. Britain ensnared in the European Union. Many of the post-war supporters of the European movement in Britain also have interesting connections. Atkinson shows that before the war, many of these people were involved in the appeasement of Hitler and in many ways sympathized with fascism. They were consistent supporters of the principles of one world government with links to the CFR and a sister organization in London, the Royal Institute of Eternal Affairs. After several unsuccessful attempts by British politicians, Britain finally joined the EEC in 1972. The British public was deceived as to the true nature of the EEC. Politicians gained the support of a majority of public by claiming that the EEC was only a trading alliance. However, the leading pro-Europeans knew it was not, and the deception succeeded. Step by step, Britain has been drawn into that ever closer union which the Treaty of Rome calls for. A trading alliance has grown into an organization that dictates to the British Parliament. A crucial step in this process was the Maastricht Treaty. This has overturned British democracy and the nation's Protestant constitution, which has been the bulwark of political and religious freedom. Parliament must now enact laws as demanded by Europe. The British political establishment has been steadily undermined. Although voters may vote for the three main parties, the policies all seem to head in the same direction. There is a remorseless shift towards integration with Europe. Any opposition to British's membership of the European Union is, for the most part, shut out of the media. On the other hand, massive funds are used by the European Union to spread propaganda and to indoctrinate the nation's children. The Fourth Reich, the Fourth Reich. We must now look at the parallels between the European Union and the Third Reich. Atkinson and McWhirter identified that the overall policies of the European Union to create a collectivist European state with a single economy and currency are remarkably similar to the Nazi plan of 1942 for a united Europe under the control of Germany. Even the Nazis' name of the European Economic Community has been retained. The fall of communism in Eastern Europe has brought the unification of Germany and the rapid expansion eastwards of the European Union and NATO. A unified Germany has become the dominant force in Central Europe, revealing a disturbing parallel with the growth of the Third Reich. Czechoslovakia split into the Czech Republic and Slovakia, with the Czech Republic being closely associated with Germany. Austria then joined the European Union, mirroring the Anschluss with Germany in 1938. A more serious development has been the disintegration of Yugoslavia, with Germany giving strong support to Croatian and Bosnian independence. The new Croatian state, just as in 1941, declared the minority Serbs to be aliens. The new Croatian flag resembles that of the Ustaše flag of the 1940s. The Jesuit war criminal Archbishop Stefanik is now honored as a national hero and has been beatified by the Pope. At the same time, Tudjman, the first leader of Croatia, publicly tried to cast doubt on the extent of the Holocaust. Nevertheless, an Islamic Bosnian state allied with Croatia was disturbing parallels with the alliance between the Croat fascists and Bosnian Muslims in the genocide of Serbs between 1941 and 1945. It is therefore not surprising that the Serbs have been provoked into a brutal response. Nevertheless, the author in no way condones or excuses the barbaric acts committed by any side of the Yugoslav conflict. However, it is noteworthy that any ethnic cleansing by Serbs have been strongly opposed and featured prominently in the media. On the other hand, the complete removal of Croatia of 200,000 Serbs from the Krajina region has been tacitly accepted. The reason for this is that Croatia is a Romanist nation, strongly supported by Germany and the Vatican, as well as other members of the European Union. By driving out the Krajina Serbs, the Croatian government has achieved the ethnic and religious purity which Pavelic and Stefanik failed to complete under their reign of terror in the 1940s. The humiliation of the Orthodox Serbs has been a strategic objective of the Vatican for the last 100 years. The recent events in Kosovo are an extension of this policy. The extent of Serbs' atrocities in response to terrorist acts was exaggerated. This encouraged a NATO show of strength that brought Serbia to submission. The end result was has been the depletion of the Serb population in Kosovo. A further parallel with Hitler's Third Reich emerges. Under Hitler, the conquered nation's gold was confiscated by Germany. Now, under the single currency nations, gold reserves are transferred to the European Central Bank based in Frankfurt. Hitler destroyed the sovereignty of nations. Today, through the Maastricht Treaty, national independence has been virtually abolished in favor of a European superstate, bearing an uncanny resemblance to Hitler's Third Reich. The next wave of countries to join the European Union may include the Romanist countries of Slovenia, Czech Republic, Hungary, and Poland. It is therefore little wonder that Russia looks on with alarm at the eastward march of the European Union and NATO. Symbols of Rome and the mysteries. If the reader doubts the preceding comments, let him now consider the symbolism of the European Union. This reveals a shocking connection to the Vatican and the mysteries. Hilton explains the Romanist origin of the flag of the European Union, the circle of 12 stars on a blue background. The design of the European flag was inspired by the halo of 12 stars around pictures of the Madonna, who is dressed in blue, and appears prominently in the Council of Europe stained glass window in Strasbourg Cathedral. The window was unveiled to the world on the 11th December 1955. This date is close to the Romanist feast of the Immaculate Conception. However, it is also a strange coincidence that 11 December is the saint's day of Saint Damascus, who we saw in chapter 5. Damasus, Saint Damasus, who we saw in chapter 5 was the Bishop of Rome that first took the title of Pontifex Maximus, thereby becoming head of the mysteries. The Church of Rome claims that Mary, with the halo of 12 stars, reigning as the supposed Queen of Heaven, is the woman with a crown of 12 stars spoken of by the Apostle John in Revelation 12. However, numerous Protestant commentators, for example, show that the woman does not represent Mary, the mother of Jesus, but is symbolic of the true Church of Christ. It is in contrast to the harlot riding the beast in Revelation 17, which represents the false church. The European flag is not only Romanish, but is also symbolic of the occult. Let us first note that each star is 5-pointed, which is symbolic of Lucifer and the Queen of Heaven. Moreover, there are 12 in numbering, forming a circle, which represents the Babylonian zodiac. The circle or halo itself represents the sun god, Sun, small g, and is the mysterious symbol of Tammuz, the deified Nimrod. The number 12 is highly significant in many aspects of the occult, being a solemn perversion of the biblical 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 apostles. As well as a flag, the European Union has an anthem. This is the prelude to the Ode to Joy, the last movement of Beethoven's Ninth Choral Symphony. Officially, the adopted anthem has no words. However, the German words of the Ode to Joy, written by Schiller, with which the anthem is associated, should be carefully considered. The English translation reads, "Praise to Joy, the God-descended daughter of Islam, ray of mirth and rapture blended, goddess to thy shrine we come. By thy magic is united what stern custom parted wide. All mankind are brothers plighted, where thy gentle wings abide." Let us note that Elysium is the heaven of Greek mythology. Therefore, we see that the Ode to Joy is in praise of the God, small g, of the mysteries. It is a call for the union of mankind in the new world order of the occult. We also note in the anthem a strange confusion of the male and female divinities. This is something we will look further in the final chapter when we consider the prophecy in the book of Revelation concerning the beast and its image. In 1984, the elections to the European Parliament was marked in Britain by a set of stamps with two designs. The first design showed an indecently dressed woman riding a beast or bull, led by a winged boy, which was riding over 7 hills or waves of the sea. An explanation of this is found in Hyslop, who refers to the pagan legend of the goddess Europa, who Jupiter led away in the form of a bull. We have already seen in chapter 3 that the bull was one of the mystery symbols for Nimrod. Furthermore, Hyslop shows that the god Jupiter, small g, was also symbolized by the winged boy and is identified with Bacchus. Apart from the use of the symbols of the Babylonian mysteries, this design bears a shocking resemblance to the description of the woman riding the beast in Revelation 17. The second design on these stamps was a bridge with the word Europa. According to the European Union, the bridge symbolizes communication among the people of Europe and with the rest of the world. Various designs of bridges alongside windows and doors will also appear on Euro banknotes. However, one cannot help but observe that the Latin word pontifex, meaning pontiff or high priest, comes from the two Latin words pons, bridge, and facio, make. Therefore, pontifex literally means the bridge maker. This symbolizes the hand of the Pope behind the European Union. Rebuilding the Tower of Babel. The most blatant symbolism of Babylon is seen in the Council of Europe poster. This was produced to promote the concept of a united Europe with the message, Europe, many tongues, one voice. The poster shows the construction of a tower above which the heavens are dominated by 12 five-pointed stars. The stars, which are the symbol of the Babylonian Queen of Heaven, are in the satanic inverted form. One immediately calls to mind the words of those ancient builders of the Tower of Babel. Go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Genesis chapter 11, verse 4. The Lord confounded their language and scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth. However, we do not need to rely on mere coincidence with this poster depicting a tower. Owers places a copy of the Council of Europe poster alongside the painting entitled The Tower of Babel by 16th century Flemish artist Pieter Bruegel the Elder. The resemblance between the two is breathtaking. The conclusion is inescapable. The Council of Europe chose to modernize Bruegel's painting to symbolize that the European Union is attempting to reverse the judgment of God against the nations at Babel. This is further seen in the design of the new European Parliament building at Strasbourg, which is likewise modeled by Bergini's painting of the Tower of Babel. The Parliament building is commonly known as the Tower. Persecution looms. If Britain remains part of the European Union, the hand of the repression and persecution will sooner or later descend upon the true churches of Jesus Christ. The Maastricht Treaty classifies the British people as European citizens. However, the duties of a European citizen are not defined, but would be ultimately decided by the European Court, which is a political court committed to the concept of the European Union. There are proposals now emerging for a common legal system within the European Union, which, if implemented, would curtail the right to trial by jury, introduce detention without trial, and undermine the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. This system is based upon the Neapolitan system of justice, which was itself derived from the Inquisition. There is seemingly a never ending series of treaties, the latest being the Treaty of Nice, which are putting in place the structure of the European superstate and preparing the powers that could be used for authoritarian repression. The signs are becoming more clear as time passes. A recent decision of the European Court of Justice has stated that the right to freedom of expression does not extend to criticism of the European Union, which is regarded as sedition. There is also a pronounced trend in Europe towards only permitting religious freedom for state approved denominations. Those who remain outside the mainstream ecumenical movement will find themselves classified as sexed, SECTS, against whom the police will have special investigative powers. The reader may be assured that faithful Protestant churches will be regarded as sects. The days of religious liberty, which for many generations have been enjoyed in Britain, are about to end unless the Lord look in mercy upon a guilty nation. The Lord sitteth in the heavens. Whatever success the enemy of the Lord may seem to have, may we see by faith that the Lord will ultimately triumph. Time and again we have seen that the works of the ungodly have been brought to confusion. To what extent the European Union will be permitted to develop, we do not know. However, the successor to the Roman Empire has always been partly strong and partly broken. Daniel 2, verse 42. They have prospered for a season, only to fall apart. Let us consider the words of the psalmist. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet I have set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. Psalm chapter 2, 1 through 7. When Martin Luther stood in his all human weakness against the power of the Emperor Charles and the Holy Roman Empire, he was mighty in faith. Luther put not his confidence in princes, armies, or alliances, but rather looked unto the Lord in fervent prayer. He knew that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4. The Lord delivered Luther, frequently bringing the mighty of the earth to confusion and embarrassment. In our current solemn position, the Christian must remember that these tribulations have not come by chance. The Lord has warned the true church through the prophecies of Scripture that we might see the Lord's sovereign hand and recognize the signs of the times. May we heed the solemn warning given to flee from the spiritual Babylon. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Revelation chapter 18, verses 4 through 5. We may see by faith that as the prophecies concerning the spiritual Babylon are being remarkably fulfilled, so will those glorious prophecies about the Christian's prospect of heaven also come to pass. Look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Luke chapter 21, verse 28. And that completes that chapter. Next will be chapter 20. Keep your eyes on Jesus, brothers and sisters. Your nose in the book, which is the Word of God, and embed the Word of God upon the tablets of your hearts, so you and I will not sin against God or be deceived. Till next time, bye-bye.